I spent a year working in corporate America, and that was enough for me. I suffered through it. I toughed it out. I'm a hard, dedicated worker. I wanted to do a good job at my job, and I did a fantastic job. The company did not want me to leave when I gave them my notice, but I told them I had to do this for my health and my mental sanity. I knew that what I was doing was not good for me, and I knew that what I was doing was not cultivating my passion. So how does someone step back into their discomfort zone after being in their comfort zone for a period of time because of how uncomfortable a job was?
So
how do you step back into the discomfort zone, so to speak?
I love that question, man.
And you know, I've
good for you, Emma. Seriously, like that is awesome.
Yeah, because what happens is if we get too comfortable for too long, I mean, there's a parody of the couch potato. You know, you think of, like, I don't have a New Yorker cartoon to describe it, but you can imagine what it would look like.
Yeah, dude.
It's the couch potato literally eating a bag of potatoes, and there's no real growth in that other than our waistlines.
Well, contentment does not lead to creation.
Yeah,
that's pithy. Put that in the.
That is.
Put that in the.
Right.
Yeah.
But creation leads to contentment.
Amen.
Oh.
Boom.
Yeah, and so I think the first thing you have to do is find what is the edge of your comfort zone today, and it's going to be different for each one of us, right? What's the edge of your comfort zone, and step beyond that? I'm thinking about. I just got one of those stationary bikes at home, right? And I was going to my initial objective this month was to ride it every day this month during the month of August. I decided to step back because on the 7th day I was in so much pain, like I was like, I should probably take a 1 or 2 day break on this thing. You know, because you're doing a soul cycle class literally every day.
It's crazy.
For a month. And so
your body needs to rest.
Yeah, my objective is if I can do it 15 times a month. Still a lot.
Yeah.
15 soul cycle sessions in 1 month. But what do? You've been to a soul cycle class with me before. Yeah. They have periods of high intensity. It's interval training, right? Yeah. You're really heavy for 30 seconds on. Heavy. Oh my God, am I going to make it? It's 20 seconds in. How am I going to go 10 more seconds at this energy level, right?
Yeah.
But you figure a way to push through. But then what do you have? You have a 30-second break. It's on and off. So you find that edge of it's extremely uncomfortable to be doing that, but you're not going to do it in perpetuity because then you're going to break. You go too far beyond the comfort zone and you break. Yeah. However, if you find that edge and you push hard for those 30 seconds or whatever the equivalent is, but then there's the moment of rest, the step back into the comfort zone. Like it's not complete rest. You're still pedaling and your cadence is lowered, but you're still moving forward. Your resistance is not zero, but it's still some resistance there. And that resistance actually helps us grow inside the comfort zone, and it prepares us for that discomfort as well.
Well, and quite literally, man, like that's what exercise is about. It's about giving yourself resistance so your muscles can grow. So you can have good cardiovascular health, like growing in a healthy way, like quite literally. Yeah. You have to have the resistance.
Right. Yeah. And by the way, we were talking about this on the Health Problems podcast that I did with Chris and Dr. Wood when we were talking about some of my health problems. But when people do, some of the best sort of training is really high intensity and then backing off. You don't want to just go out and run for 2 hours straight at a medium pace. And he was comparing that to the mental load, the medium cognitive load is what he called it, where it's the opposite of what Cal Newport talks about with deep work, like really heavy focus for an hour or two a day. It's level 9 or 10. You can't do more than an hour or two of that. Right. And there are a few exceptions. Fiction writers seem to be able to do 3 to 5 hours. A lot of them. But for the most part, you have this heavy cognitive load, but then you have to back off and you have to go look at a tree or something for a while. Something that doesn't require that heavy cognition. And I think the same is going to be true here for Emma. And is you're going to have to find that discomfort, and then whatever that is, it's a step beyond the comfort zone. It's not pain. Don't confuse discomfort with pain. They're two different things. We don't want you to suffer. We want you to get a little bit uncomfortable. That's where you're going to grow.
Yeah, going with your bike analogy, it's like being on the bike is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But then it started to become painful when you weren't on the bike.
Yeah.
And there's a clear distinction where you're like, oh, like this is not growing, this is hurting.
It's not good for me.
Right. So
hurting is not growing. That's another beautiful minimal maxim there, podcast Sean.
Man, you know, I want to encourage Emma to start small. She's got to practice getting back into her discomfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean, you know, going to the gas station and asking for a free refill on her gas? Does that mean public speaking? Does it mean writing, you know, that first song and singing it in front of, you know, her partner or friend? I don't know what that means for her. But my point is that she can find these fairly banal experiences
that have no real negative consequences.
Exactly.
If you fail at them.
Yeah, not banal. Benign is
benign.
Benign is what I meant. So these fairly...
Hopefully they're not banal.
Yeah, hopefully they're not. Benign can be banal, but doesn't necessarily have to be. But yeah, you can find these benign experiments, these way to practice kind of being in your discomfort zone, Emma. And the more you practice, the better you get at it. I love the talk. Jia Jiang, I think is how you pronounce his name. He talks about his story with practicing failure. I know I've recommended this before on a podcast, like several podcasts ago, but we saw him at the World Domination Summit. I think it was back in 2000, and it must have been 2013, huh?
Something like that.
Yeah. But anyway, he just does a really good job of talking about how he doesn't talk about practicing being uncomfortable. What he talks about is practicing failure. Mm-hmm. But he gives an amazing talk about how he went out and tried to fail on purpose so he could get comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a very appropriate talk for Emma, where she could translate his advice on practicing failing to practicing being uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And the other thing that I'm thinking about is, so she left the corporate world, right? Yeah. She left that corporate job, something she wasn't passionate about, and she might be struggling with finding her passion. Mm-hmm. And so I have this article from The Atlantic. It's called "Find Your Passion is Awful Advice," which is very suspiciously similarly titled to an essay that I wrote 5 years ago.
Dude, it's a compliment.
Yes.
It's a very good compliment.
But it's actually my guess is the author actually did not. Generally, with articles like in organs like The Atlantic, the author does not get to pick their own title.
Oh, I gotcha.
There's some editor somewhere that picks a title.
Yeah.
Anyway, we did an interview with Cal Newport. It was called "Follow Your Passion is Shitty Advice."
Right.
We'll put a link to that in the show notes, but also we'll put a link to this. I just wanted to read the beginning of it to maybe point you in the right direction here, Emma. Carol Dweck, a psychology professor at Stanford University, remembers asking an undergraduate seminar recently, "How many of you are waiting to find your passion?" Almost all of them raised their hand and got dreamy looks in their eyes, she told me. They talked about it, quote, like a tidal wave would sweep them over. Sploosh, huzzah! It's accounting. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, very rarely does someone say, "I found my passion." It's accounting, right?
Yeah.
Although we've talked about Connor, our accountant, he seems to be really passionate about accounting. Would they have unlimited motivation for their passion? They nodded solemnly. "I hate to burst your balloon," she said. "It doesn't usually happen that way." The article goes on to cite a bunch of studies and references. I'm going to have Sean put a link to it in the show notes, but let's talk about it.
Sounds great, man. Well, yeah, it's like the reason why everyone's nodding their head like, yes, I'm always going to be motivated, is because we do have this saying in Western society about how if you find something you love to do, you never have to work a day in your life. And there's somebody out there who's probably like, yeah, that's my life, and I get up and I don't feel like I ever have to go to work, and I love what I do. But that is Jordan's over there raising his hand, you know, but Jordan is an exception to the rule,
right?
Like that is not the rule. Going back to the expectations that we set for ourselves, like that expectation can really be detrimental to us. Definitely. It's not good to have that expectation, and I'm arguing that having that expectation is actually really, really harmful to someone.
It is, because it presupposes that you were born to be a nurse or an astronaut or an accountant or whatever it may be. There is not one thing that is going to be a passion. And by the way, the thing that if you do find something that you can cultivate into a passion, you may not be passionate about it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
It may pivot or it might change altogether. For me, fiction writing was the prime example. I'm still really passionate about writing, but I always thought like that's what I would do for the rest of my life. When I left the corporate world, like fiction writing was the thing, and then that's what I wanted to do. And I haven't in earnest written any published any fiction since 2012.
Yeah.
And I haven't written a whole lot that's publishable since then. I couldn't honestly say, well, I'm a fiction writer, because I don't write fiction, right? And it's not the thing I'm curious about anymore. It is a thing I was really curious about in my 20s, and I followed that curiosity. But guess what? That curiosity led me down a different path to another curiosity. But if I were to have found my passion, then it'd be something I could never leave. And I couldn't be doing this right now. I couldn't be helping people solve their problems via a different medium, whether it's podcasting or writing on a blog or making our next documentary. I couldn't do that if I was so fixed on, well, I've already found my passion.
You know, or something worse might happen too when we have that expectation. We find something that we really like, we really enjoy doing, like writing, for example. And then all of a sudden you get to a point where you're like, man, this feels like work. Oh, I must not really be passionate about it. Yeah. I mean, so having that expectation of I find something I love, I get up, I don't work a day in your life, and then you find something you like, and then you realize like, oh, wow, this is a little bit of work. It could, you know, make someone just shrug off that time and the energy that they wanted to put into that passion. But, you know, just realizing that, yes, you are going to have to work. Like you are going to, dude, you and I there's not anything else I'd rather be doing. Like what we're doing is amazing. And I wake up every day grateful for it. And I still feel like there are days where like we work our asses off.
Well, it reminds me we did a Patreon live stream. We do a monthly Patreon live stream for the patrons. And one of the questions on the last one was about if you had a year left to live, what would you do with that year? What would you do differently? And it's actually a question I've asked myself since 2011.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't do anything differently because I'm already living my life how I would live it if I just had the rest of this year left to live. Yeah. Now, would I maybe adjust some particulars and move some stuff up around? Yes, but the end result of the year would be the same. And you and I had this conversation like, what the hell happened in 2006? and it was like, I don't really remember what happened in 2000. Was that the year that the promotion, or was that I don't remember. And you were like, well, there was alcohol and drugs involved, but that wasn't just 2006. And like the point is, like now, ever since making this decision, living life 1 year at a time, because I don't have some grandiose 10-year plan. Like, well, here's where I'm going to be 10 years from now. No. I know what we are going to focus on for the next year because you and I talk about it. We have these conversations. We're going to grow together this way. And we adjust accordingly, but we know what we're going to do. But we can also look back and say, hey, remember in 2010 when we started the website? Do you remember in 2011 when we published our first book? Do you remember 2012 during the Holiday Happiness Tour? Yeah. Do you remember 2013 when we moved to Missoula and started a publishing company? Do you remember 2014 when we did the 100-city tour? Do you remember in 2015 we did the word tasting tour and finished filming the documentary? Do you remember in 2016 we released our documentary? Yeah. Do you remember in 2017 we started, and you have all of these different, each year we have this thing that we can look back on and say, oh, our resources, our time, our attention, our money, our energy,
skills,
was all focused on this major project. Everything else sort of focused on that. And so we're doing something meaningful because we did focus on it. Yeah. And I think that's where Emma has to be right now, is how is she going to use those resources? Don't wait around to find your passion. It's find your curiosity. What are you interested in right now? And then move in that direction.
We really need to come up with a new, like, I want to rephrase if you find something you love to do, you never work a day in your life. Let's try and rephrase that right now. So maybe the saying should be, find something that you don't mind working towards. Yeah. There's something there, man. There's another saying that we have to start putting out into the world. That just sets the right expectation of cultivating a passion's hard work.
Right. Yeah. Finding something that find something that is worth working your ass off for. Something like that. I mean,
that's good, man.
We can work toward something pithier.
Yeah. But here, you pick the best pithy tweet there, podcast, Sean, and put that out there.
And add 4 M dashes to it.